How you doing? Thought I'd just make a short little video to show you what I'm working on. If you've been following along, this week I've spent quite a bit of time and got all the track work soldered together. Not quite installed yet. I ran into a bit of a hitch. I'll explain what I'm going to have to do to solve a slight design flaw that I discovered just the other day. On the layout along the water, where the car float sits, between the shore and the car float is what they call a float bridge that was anchored at one end, and it would pivot up and down and actually took up the slack or the difference between the water level in the car float and land. So this would have been attached here and pivot up and down, attached to the front of the car float. This is sort of what it looked like. It sat right here. This is the float bridge section here with the Harlem River in behind it. The flaw that I found has to do with the geometry in here. This is two curved tracks. These are standard 90 foot and 104 foot radiuses, the same radiuses used everywhere on the terminal. What I did when I made the design originally was I didn't put this edge far enough that way. So when a car float is docked up against this edge, there's a mismatch in the alignment between these tracks and the float. And I can show you, I'll bring the car float all the way up. Normally the car float is docked back here on the float bridge, but if I bring it all the way up, right now I've got it sitting up against this edge, but I have to allow a little bit of space in there for some edge treatment that gets done along here. There's some piles that were driven in. I'm going to model that. So realistically the car float would be about this far out, about 1 finger width out from the edge. If I extend this geometry out following this radius, I have quite a mismatch between this track and the end of the car float. The same happens down here. It's about half a track off, which is quite a bit. So this whole thing needs to go that way in order to line up properly. I thought I could just kind of fudge the geometry a little bit and kind of curve this out to where it would need to match up, but it would put a little bit of a joggle in this radius, and when a string of cars is pulled off the car float, I think it would be quite noticeable, and that would drive me absolutely insane watching the cars wiggle as they go through out there, because so far the geometry on all the track work is pretty precise. This would be very noticeable and unacceptable. So I'm going to have to fix it. So how do I fix it? Well, that's a good question. I spent a few hours last night and a little bit of time this morning trying to determine how I'm going to remove some of this material. Working from this photograph, I was able to determine the distance between the edge of this track and the edge of the water line. It's about 1 track gauge width. So this is 4.5, 4'8". This is about 4'6", close enough. So from here I can get a very precise measurement of what this distance is supposed to be. And when I check it on here, I'm off by about 5/8 of an inch, about that much. So I have to remove that much of material along this waterfront. So this is a fairly robust piece of plywood that's been inserted in here. So I think what I'm going to do is remove any screws that I can find and nails. I can do that using a little rare earth magnet. What I do is I just kind of drag it along the waterfront and it'll jump right there. So now I know that I've got a little nail sitting in there. I'm going to see if I can dig that out or determine if it's a nail or a screw. If it's a screw, I'm not too worried, or if it's a nail, I'm not too worried. I'm just going to cut it off. But if it's a screw, I'll have to take it out. And I'm just going to take a skill saw with the blade set at this depth and slice consecutive slices until this whole piece has been removed. Reinforce it from the back and I should be good to go, hopefully. So the first step in this is basically to clean all this off. Fortunately, now that the track is built as a single unit, believe it or not, I can just pick the whole thing up and set it aside like this. It actually comes off as a complete unit. And I'll just take this right off the layout and stick it over here for safekeeping somewhere. I could just skip the layout altogether and just hang it all and call it art. So because this is going to generate a colossal amount of sawdust, I'm going to take the layout apart and move outside to do the cutting. Of course, it's a long weekend here this weekend, and so it's raining, naturally. It's actually our May 2-4 weekend, where here in Canada we celebrate the introduction of the 24 packs of beer. So it's a long weekend, it's raining, but I think I can work underneath the canopy here and do some cutting.